y'all, and welcome to today's video. I just got in my order of the Natasha Denona Xenon palette. This palette actually kind of surprised me when I got it in the mail. This is what she is looking like. We have a monochromatic black and white palette, gray. We are going to talk about it. I want to do two different eye looks. I want to see what we think of this palette. Is the quality there? I want to share my thoughts, my kind of first impression, all of that. We are going to have a good time playing with makeup, having fun. Let's jump into it. I did purchase this palette from the Natasha Denona site. It is available at Ulta and Sephora US, and I will link it down below everywhere you can get it in case you are curious about this one. So I really love the mini Xenon palette. I purchased this and I use it a lot as a companion palette. I love that we have a black and we have this beautiful kind of creamy white shade with shades in between. So I was actually really excited when I saw this Xenon palette launch. I do want to show you close-ups and swatches. I normally wait to swatch a palette until after I've used it on the eyes because I don't want to, like, you know, have any thoughts going into a look. But I was actually a little shocked when I opened my palette. I love ordering from the Natasha Denona site. Their shipping is so fast. I ordered this on Saturday. I got it on, Tuesday? I didn't pay for expedited shipping or anything. It comes so well, like, packaged, everything. But looking at the photos online and looking at the shade descriptions on Natasha Denona's site, this shade right here is described as a, like, midnight blue. And looking at it in the pan, I don't really see the blue. If I really look, maybe I can see a little bit of that, but swatched out, it was gray. This shade right here, Snowbow, is described as like a shimmering pink. I don't see that. Swatched out, I can kind of see that pink reflect, but overall, I was a little shocked because it's different than what I envisioned from the photos and swatches online. It just doesn't have those kind of two different pops. But I bought this palette with the intention of using it as a larger companion palette, maybe mixing it with some of my indie singles, like pigments, things like that. So I'm definitely going to be using it that way in the future. But today I want to create two eye looks with this palette. I want to see how different can we get our looks, and I just want to kind of talk. I want to talk about the palette. I want to share my thoughts. I love Natasha Denona eyeshadow formulas. For me, I can't really compare this to other palettes because I feel like her formula is so dang good, but I want to talk about it because there have been a lot of like gray, cool tone palettes that have launched lately. I'm never here to convince you to buy anything. We're just here to have a good time, play with our makeup. So let me zoom you in and we will kind of talk and create looks. Okay, so I've got you zoomed in and I went ahead and put down my eyeshadow primer and actually mixed in a little bit of my white NYX paint, because I want to make sure that my primer for these shadows doesn't have any warmth to it, because I do have a olive skin tone that is warm leaning. So I know that cool tones are not the shades that I normally gravitate towards, not grays like this, although I do think they can be fun and smoky and kind of that like sultry type of vibe. But I just try to start with a primer that's not super warm, which is what my normal primers are, more warm leaning. So I've got our eye primed for shadow and I really want to play with this. Now listen, if you love gray shadows, I think you're probably gonna love this, as long as the quality is the same Natasha Denona that I know and love, that I see consistently in her palettes. This is probably gonna be perfect for you. For me, just like now that I've looked at it and swatched it, I think I will probably still be using the mini the most because I feel like it really has everything that I need. But I do love Natasha Denona, and I like having her palettes. I really, like I said, want to use this as a companion palette, mixing it with like single shades, things like that. So I just want to test out the quality. Let's go in. I want to see if we can create two very different eye looks because these are kind of all on the same scale. So I want to go in first. I do want to go in with this shade that Natasha Denona is calling Navy. It is a more like metallic type shade, but I want to kind of start with this and see what happens. I'm just gonna pop down a little bit of Blizzard first, and then we'll use this one. I want to not wait too long because I'm just really curious to see how that looks. So I'm gonna make sure I don't have any creases in my eye primer. I'm gonna grab a brush. Okay, so I'm gonna take that shade Blizzard. It is very, very light, but I'm just gonna put it on top of my primer. And I'm going to buff and blend, just kind of having this down to get our look started, and hopefully this will be really pretty in the socket, kind of above the socket, below the socket, just buffing it on. It's a very light, this is a very, very light shade, but the formula so far seems to be like what I expect from Natasha. Okay, I've got the metallic midnight blue as Natasha describes it. And to me, this is not blue. This is so gray. This is like a slate gray. I knew when I opened the palette, I was like, where's the blue and the pink? Where is the blue and the pink? But I was like, let me see. Let me wait and see. Let me swatch it. And I swatched it and I'm like, but where's the blue and the pink though? Where's the blue and the pink though? And I'm like, okay, Heather, don't get carried away. Wait till you get it on the eye. I'm putting it in a large space and I'm putting it on like in a different order than I would normally put shadows on. Normally I would wait for metallic on the lid until, you know, I've got all my mattes down that I want. But I was so curious to see like, okay, maybe this is blue. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem. It's me. This is not blue. This is slate. Like, I do not see blue. I am so curious to watch some other videos on this palette and see what other people are saying, if they're seeing blue, because I'm not seeing blue. Now, is that a beautiful metallic slate color? Yes, it is. Is it blue? No. Okay, let's do the outer corner with a metallic as well. Let's do Night Sky, because when I swatched the palette, I did not see a huge difference in this. There we go. Okay, I feel like now that they're side by side, I can see that Night Sky is definitely deeper. It is more of that metallic black. Oh, I'm just like leaning down to my mirror and making it where y'all can't see. Yeah, that's pretty. We're gonna do metallic right out here, and I'm just buffing that, pressing and then buffing. So far, all of the shadows are performing really well though, really beautifully. There is no matte black in this palette, which if you have the mini Xenon is good because, you know, you're not gonna buy like repetitive shades. I'm just grabbing a little bit more of Blizzard, that first shade we started with. And I'm gonna use this to kind of like buff and blend. Okay, I think I've got a nice blend going so far. I'm going to pull this deeper shade up a little bit. I do have deep set eyes, so sometimes I like to take my color up and out a little bit just to give me a little bit of a lift. But I kind of like that we have the two metallics right out here. I'm kind of into that. Okay, I really want to use this shade right here on the lower lash line. I think a metallic, a shimmer, a duochrome, a multichrome, a holochrome, whatever, I think a non-matte shadow can be so beautiful on the lower lash line. So I'm going to pick this up on my brush, and I'm going to spray my brush with a little bit of setting spray, makeup mist, whatever you want, just to help me get that intensity, which is what I'm going for on the lower lash line. Okay, so I'm going to put this right on the lower lash line. So hard to talk into the lower lash line sometimes, but I'm kind of like pressing and then dragging the brush just a little bit, but I mainly want to get the shadow on my lower lash line, and then I will blend in just a second. So I'm just going to slowly kind of buff now. I think that's a pretty deep shimmer. I like the sparkle that I can see in it. I really like how all these shadows are performing. I definitely don't mean to come across like too negative or anything when I'm saying some of these shades just, they're not what I expected, you know, when I bought the palette. I knew it was going to be a bunch of gray shades, just variations of white and black mixed together, but I was kind of looking forward to the more navy tone being in here, the more pinky tone. And so I am just a little disappointed that those aren't more true to the description. But for being like the slate gray and all, I do think it is really pretty. I'm just buffing. Like, as I do my shadow, I'll put a shadow down, put another one down, go back and blend the other, go back and blend the other, like, so I'm just making sure that I have the blend I want. And I want to go in with something kind of bright on the inner part of the lid here. So I'm really looking forward to testing this Snowball shade on the eye, but I want to wait and do that for the other look because I want to give it a larger surface area than just the little bit of the inner corner. So for this eye, why don't we do, what should we do? Let's do Skift, this more kind of like taupey shimmer. And then maybe for the inner corner, we will do a matte highlight, and we'll do this lighter color right here, this kind of white shade. Yeah, is that a white? Is it? Yeah, it's definitely more white and more cool than the one in the mini Xenon. So I'll pick up Skift, and I am going to spray my brush. When I use a shimmer, I spray my brush. I didn't do it for this shade and this outer corner shade. What was that? Night Sky and Ebb, just because like I don't feel like I needed to with the way I was using those, almost more like matte shades. But for the lower lash line and for Skift, I'm gonna spray my brush. Okay, so I've got Skift, and this has a lot of sparkle to it. I like this formula. I will say, for me, this is for me, of course, okay? Like, I'm not speaking for anyone else. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about anybody else's life. I know about my life. I don't mind paying for Natasha Denona because I feel like she offers such beautiful formulas. I love her cream to powder formula. We're going to play with that in the next look for sure. I love that we have so many different formulas in a palette with Natasha. You know, we have metallics, we have shimmers, that are very sparkly, we have cream to powder, we have matte. Like, we have different formulas, and I do think her shadow formulas are very special and beautiful. So for me, I don't mind spending that more luxury price point on a Natasha Denona palette. And her palettes, like, if you look on the back, not all, but a lot have these little like pinholes. Can you see? There you go. And you can kind of pop the shadows out. You can rearrange them. You can mix with your other Natasha Denona palette. Like, you can kind of do what you want. I see I see where my money's going with this. And we have a nice mirror always. The mirror stands if that's important to you. I see where my money's going. But I will also say, if you are somebody who says, I don't really care about those things, I do think, like, you can get beautiful gray cool palettes at a lower price point. So definitely if you are like, Heather, I just, you know, well, first of all, I hit my brush and sent shadow flying everywhere. If you're redo, if you're looking at this and you're like, I just don't want to pay that for a palette, I do think you can get a similar look with palettes at a lower price point. So definitely don't feel like me saying, oh, I really like this, I really like the formulas. You know, don't take that as me saying you cannot get a similar look with a different palette. Definitely don't want you to take it that way. But I do think this eye look is super pretty. I really like the shades. I think this is really smoky and sultry. And I think if you are into grays, you will really like this. I definitely do. But I think this is where we will call it done for this look. I will do mascara and a lash and all, but I want to do this look first. So I'm going to throw down my eyeshadow base primer over here, and we'll get started on this look. And then at the end, I thought I would show you this next to the mini Xenon, next to the Glam palette, the more cool toned neutral palette from Natasha Denona, and we'll talk some more, but I want to test a few more of these shades. Okay, so we're primed for shadow over here, and I want to start with the cream to powder shade right here called Splash. I love Natasha Denona's cream to powder shadows. I just think the formula is so good. It's so good on its own. It's so good as a base for shadows. So I'm just going to make sure I don't have any creases in my eye primer, because I definitely don't want to set a crease in place. Listen, we got deep set eyes. We've got oily skin. I cannot be setting creases into place. I need my primer to do its job. So I'm just gonna kind of press this shade all in the socket. It's fine if it looks messy right now. We will make it look nice in a minute. I just really want to get this kind of all in my socket, and then down on the lid, in the outer portion of the lid, like that, because we're going to use it as a little bit of a base, and then we're going to let it be kind of deep in the outer corner as well. So I'm going to just kind of get that laid down, and then we can go back and blend in a minute. I will say, if you've never worked with her cream to powder formula, I feel like it's best to like pick up some on your brush, put it down, pick up a little bit more, like kind of work, not trying to load your brush up all at once, but just dipping in the pan kind of back and forth and going on. And then I'm also going to wrap this around and bring it under our lower lash line too. So we're gonna kind of have this whole like Pac-Man type of shape. Like it's coming to eat the other eye. We're having the shape just like this. Okay, now that I have that kind of down as a base, I want to grab this shade right here, Snert, this gray, and then I also want to go in with Flurry after. So first we're going to do Snert. Okay, so I picked up just a little bit of that on my brush, and I'm actually just going to kind of go on top of the cream to powder, not low. Whoops, let me get my hair out of my face. Not as low as I took the cream to powder, but just kind of buffing on top and using this. And then we're going to fade it into that Flurry shade that is more of like a taupey kind of like really gray cream color. But I want to have this first to kind of give us a little dimension before we go in with that light shade. And I'm going to put it on the lower lash line too. This is definitely one of those looks that's going to be a trust the process, okay? Trust the process. It's going to come together. Don't worry. I'm going to grab my Sigma switch because I actually want to use this brush again. Okay, so now I've got Flurry, and I'm going to use this to buff and blend the edges. So I'm going kind of half where I put that cream to powder and then the gray, and then half where I don't have shadow yet. Just using this as kind of a blending shade to make everything transition nicely. When I work with grays as opposed to like warm brown, olive, or like golden type of shades, I do have to blend and like spend a little more time just because I don't have that cool undertone. But I don't feel like these shadows are hard to work with at all. Of course not. And so far, I have not had a shade yet that has performed badly. The quality seems to be there. Okay, I want to go in with the shade I have been so curious about. I told you, Ebb and Snowboat. These were the ones that I'm like, I gotta see this, because this looked so pink in the photos, and like looking at it, it looks very cool, and I can see, like you're seeing, it does look like a very like interesting shade. I think it looks beautiful, but it's gray, it's not pink, and I don't see the pinky lean. I see like different shades of gray reflex in here. So I'm going to pick this up, I'm going to spray my brush, and we are going to put this kind of all over the lid, just not in the outer corner, because I don't want to take my shimmer out that far, but I'm going to spray my brush first. Okay, so I'm going to put that shadow down right here. That is not pink, like that's not pink, that is not pink. It definitely has some really pretty reflect to it, but it is still like a silvery gray. It's very beautiful. I'm even going to take it right here on the inner corner. I really like it. It's just not pink. It's just not pink. Now listen, maybe I'm going to watch everybody else's review and they're going to be like, look at this navy, look at this pink, how beautiful. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I do not see pink. So if you were looking at this palette and you were thinking, I really want the Xenon palette, I want grays, but I don't want a pink and a navy, maybe that's good news for you, because it's not pink and it's not navy. I can tell you that right now. But it is very pretty and it's performing beautifully. Okay, for the inner corner, I want to go into Neve because I believe this one is also described as like a pinky shade. Let me actually look on the Natasha Denona site because it's not. Yeah, this is described as a sparkling metallic peony pink. On me, this is a very light silvery white, almost like the color of snow or something like that is what I would think with this. Really beautiful, just not pink, not pink. Now, for me, this look, I would love to put the matte black from the mini Xenon in the outer corner here just to give myself a little more drama, but I'm not going to do that. I wanted to create two looks with just this palette. And I didn't even say about the packaging earlier, but I really like, well, you can see all my fingerprints on it now, but I do really like the, like, I don't know, like it has little specks. I don't know, it looks like the night sky, and I kind of like that. But I think I'm going to leave the looks here. I'm just going to throw on liner and a lash and collect my thoughts, and then I will come back and we will discuss, because I definitely want to hear what y'all think. All right, y'all, here are the two finished looks. They look very similar. They look very similar. Yes, they do. But I do think all of the shadows in this palette performed really beautifully. I mean, if you are wanting a bunch of gray shadows, the quality of this is the Natasha Denona quality that I love. Like, all the shadows performed really well. So looking at it next to, whoops, the mini Xenon. So this one came first, the mini. I think I will reach for this one still probably the most. It's convenient, it's small, it has the black, it has the light shade, it has the 2 grays, and it has a beautiful silver. Now, what you're not gonna get in the mini is all of these beautiful shimmer shades. You know, you're not gonna have this beautiful kind of taupey silver. You're not gonna have as many, because there's a bright silver in here, whereas here, of course, you get lots of those different formulas. You get the metallic shades, all of that. So it is like an expansion, just like Natasha Denona said. And I will be mixing this with my singles. I think that's how I'm going to use this the most, as a companion palette. If you want cool tone neutrals, I think the Glam palette is the one for you. If you're like, I want cool tone neutrals, some browns, not just white, black variations of gray. The Glam palette, the quality in here is absolutely beautiful, and you get still those cooler tones, but I think the quality of this one is great. I was just a little like, oh, like a little shocked when I opened it, because I did expect to see a little more variation based on the photos I had seen online. But of course, I do not regret my purchase or anything like that. Again, I did buy this on the Natasha Denona site. I do have an affiliate code with Natasha Denona, but it's also available at Sephora, Ulta, all of that. I will link those retailers down below. If I can find it at any other retailers, I will try to put a link there as well. I will also link to the other things that I'm having on my face, my lashes and lip and all of that stuff. So thank you so much for watching. I would love to know if you bought this palette, if you've received it like I did. Her shipping was so fast. I'm so pleased with it. I would love to know what you thought when you opened the palette, or you know, how, I don't know. I'm gonna go watch some other videos after I get this video up, because I'm curious to see what other people are thinking. I hope you're having an amazing day. Please do subscribe. I have so many videos planned, so many videos coming. This is actually gonna be the second video I upload today. I uploaded a video earlier this morning because I knew my Natasha Denona was coming, but just in case, I went ahead and uploaded a video where I'm testing out some new indie makeup, so definitely check that out if you haven't yet, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye!